What's up guys, Speed here, and today we're going to be looking at 7.22F. Honestly, I had no idea, and I really didn't think that IceFrog would put out another patch before TI. I feel like this is a lot, not so sure, but we're going to be going over some huge hero changes. It feels like a very much of a balanced patch, rather than like a make one hero giga relevant patch, but still something really cool to look at, some new heroes to maybe try out. Let's get into it. So the only item change of the patch is that consuming Aghanim Scepter recipe is now 200 less gold. That's about it. It was very expensive. You know, it felt niche, and you often would have a lot of gold anyway in the late game if you were going to buy it, but it was very, very expensive and hard to incorporate in the majority of games, so this makes sense. For Abaddon, I'm actually really thinking that Abaddon is pretty solid as an offlaner. In fact, I might include it in the next video, just talking about it a bit and what you should consider. But his base attack speed is now getting buffed again, which isn't a ton, it's only 5, but for the laning stage that can matter quite a bit, and an armor increase, which is huge for Abba, especially if you're trading right clicks, right? And in the past, if you're playing pos 5 Abaddon, you wouldn't necessarily want to trade right clicks, right? You're mostly playing around your miscoil, so armor wouldn't do as much. Not that it's bad, but this makes a lot more sense for like a core or offlane Abaddon in particular. So keep your eyes out for that. That's what I'm going to say about that. So AA getting some nerfs. He has been a bit more popular lately. I didn't feel like he was that popular to the point where he maybe even deserved a nerf, but IceFrog thought so. So basically cold feet distance to travel reduced, meaning it's easier to get out of the like latch range where it will stun you from, which seems like a big deal. It's only 25, but still. And then some mana cost on Ice Blast, which can hurt you a bit as all of your spells cost actually a lot of mana, can add up. And then a slight talent nerf, but I mean, HP regen was kind of whack anyway. Beastmaster got, a seemingly decent buff. I mean, it helps with like seeing who's coming to back them up, whoever you roar, but Primal Roar knockback now destroys any trees the units come into contact with, so I guess this is to prevent you from like pushing people into the trees. Okay, I mean, yeah, sure, seems good. Bloodseeker base movement speed increased by 5. I'm actually not certain how good Bloodseeker is right now. I think his laning stage is quite potent with the Bloodright buffs, especially if you pair him with the right hero. Maybe a hero like Undying who can chip down, or even like Bounty Hunter SCC below. But in general, a base movement speed buff for a hero that, relies on movement speed and can trade particularly well is very, very strong. Bounty Hunter has received multiple buffs to Shuriken Toss. If we actually look at the spell now, it's 150 damage at level 1. 150 damage. That's one of the highest damage nukes at level 1 in the game. It's only 135 mana now, which is still quite a bit compared to a lot of nukes, but it's only an 8-second cooldown, so if you pick up a couple mangoes and chuck shurikens, you actually can zone safe laners very, very well. I feel like this has quite a bit of merit to it, and maybe something for you to try out. Just a value point in Shuriken Toss at level 1. Just chuck it at people. Brewmaster got a base intelligence increased by 1. Helps him in the lane a bit, that's about it. Centaur Roar Runner, what you need to know about this retaliate damage reduction is that it's much worse at the later level. So at level 1 it's not changed at all, so you're the same at level 1, but later on you actually lose 3% retaliate damage. And basically what this means for all you who don't understand this is, retaliate damage is what you get when you activate it. So basically later on you're not going to cap at whatever, like, I don't even know what the number was, like 350 or something, or whatever it's based off of, but it's going to be a bit lower, actually quite a bit lower considering it's percentage based. This is a huge buff for Chaos Knight in my opinion. Reality Rift cooldown reduced from 20 to 14 most notably. That's the most notable one. 6 seconds off at level 1, basically like scaling down from each other, eventually just meeting at 5. And from what I saw from the Arteezy video that I made, it was he actually skipped Reality Rift. He took a value point, which is the important part to note. So he had a value point in the Reality Rift, I think at level 5 maybe? Could have been level 7, I'm forgetting now. But the important thing to note is that this is a better value point, and that's what you were taking, at least according to Arteezy, making this a big, big buff. Honestly, I know Chen was still getting picked, but like, did he really need another nerf? I mean, I think he's good, but like, Jesus. Base movement speed reduced by 5, which, once again, makes Chen even slower. Feels bad, Chen. Chen's just a rock. And then Divine Favor cooldown increased from 90 to 120 at level 1. 90 to 120. Scales down to 60, so I guess you really have to max this now more than ever. But early levels, I mean, yikes. Maybe it's still okay because you wouldn't use it that much anyway in the laning stage. That's totally wrong, actually. There's so many uses for this spell. Probably one of the biggest nerfs of this patch, if not the biggest. Huge Clockwork buff. I actually really like this because what I see here with hookshot stun duration being increased from 1 to 1.5 is that it's going to be much easier to cogs people back, or at least just get a few more ticks in of your Q, maybe like 2 or 3, which is quite significant. But I really do see it for the cogs pushback and just an overall quality of life change at the early stages for Clockwork, where, you know, hookshot really did feel like it didn't stun at all at level 1. It was very underwhelming, so this helps it out a bit. Crystal Maiden got a base armor reduction, but don't worry if you ultimate, you still have like 80 armor, so really not the end of the world. No, but for the laning stage, this hurts you quite a bit in particular, because, you know, you're a slow hero, you don't deal too well with heavy right clicks anyway, so, you know, that's just how it is for CM nowadays. Darkseer got his vacuum damage doubled at level 1 and at level 2, so cool enough, this spell is actually an 100 damage nuke now at level 2, which isn't anything crazy, but I don't think it's enough to bring Darkseer back. That shell nerf, dropping his ion shell down to 24 damage at level 1, hurt him so much. It just hurts so much. From 30 to 24 on a spell that ticks, it was just brutal. I don't think this is nearly enough. I think Ice Frog has been pushing this for a while, where you take a value point in vacuum, as it's like actually decent. It's like a relatively decent nuke, maybe at level 2. Instead of taking Surge, you can like be some laner and pair it with like a Sand King. But still, I don't think so. I don't think this is good enough. Darkseer maybe still has potential, but whew. Dark Willow got a terrorized duration reduction from 4 to 3.5 to 3.7 to 4, which isn't the end of the world, but I think the bigger part is now that your cooldown got reduced at least at level 3, it's 20 seconds more now, which can hurt you a bit in the late game. Makes you have to be a little bit more careful about just using it defensively or to save one person. I think you still will. 80 seconds is still fairly low, but in general, a bit worse at level 1, which hurts it a bit, and quite a bit worse for the cooldown at level 3. Dragonite's Scepter got buffed. I mean, I really haven't seen anyone legitimately buy this. Maybe because the hero's unpopular, but I don't think so. I don't know, guys. 30 to 40%. I mean, that's a lot of magic resistance. No joke, but that still means you have to get to level 18 to actually get it, if I'm not mistaken, which isn't so good. It's just like not that good. So I'm not sold on this. I think the talent is obviously decent. The 180 gold per minute to 210 instead of 25 strength, though, that's a hard bargain. Not taking 25 strength on Dragonite is kind of a yikes. So don't know. Drow Ranger got some pretty nice buffs, actually. Base strength increased by 1, which can, you know, make or break potentially a first blood, and base agility, which also can make or break a first blood, and gives her 1 damage. So pretty good. I mean, nothing crazy, obviously. It's not like, whoa, Drow's broken. No. Back to the last patch, or whatever patch that was. But also a talent change, where she got increased from 30% Gust Blind to 40%. I really haven't even seen this because Drow isn't popular. Just makes people blind, which seems potentially powerful. The other talent's actually decent. 14 agility is pretty good. So maybe this makes sense in some games against like a Sven or some other right clicker. I don't know, Weaver. I don't know why Weaver came to mind. Slark, I guess. You'll figure it out. Echo Stomp, 15 less mana at level 1, which is the important part, so you can use it a bit more in the laning stage. I think it helps Elder Titan a bit. He had like slight mana issues, nothing crazy though. It could kind of be solved with like a Mango and a Clarity, but helps him out quite a bit. So better laner. Nice. Ember Spirit, 1 less armor. Still get a nerf. That's what I'm talking about. I actually love seeing Ember play. Honestly, I think this is one of the most fun heroes to watch in Dota. So, you know, to be fair, I don't love seeing him get nerfed, but he does need it. Still one of the strongest heroes in Dota. Kind of just provides everything you'd want in a core. So, feels good, man. Enigma base intelligence reduction by 2. Still nerfing Enigma. Don't really know what this means for the hero. I don't understand Enigma fully to understand what a base intelligence reduction by 2 would actually do to him. Maybe it's 1 less Eidolon based upon how much clarity you get going, but I can't imagine this is too bad for what Enigma really wants to do, which is just sack range creeps and buy clarities. Grimstroke already had a kind of a meh landing stage, at least as a Pos 5. Pos 4 you're still fine due to the fact that your spells do a lot. And now you have 4 less base damage? I mean, you just traded 1v1 poorly as is, now you trade 1v1 even worse. I mean, your 1v1 wasn't awful, but it definitely wasn't incredible. Especially due to your kind of meh attack animation and base attack time. But now you just have 4 less damage? I mean, okay. Invoker base intelligence increased by 1. More? Big kid Invoker? Thanks, Ice Frog. But I mean, it's fine. I don't think Invoker's particularly great right now. I think he's just mediocre at best. So, buffing Invoker's cool. Do I love having Invoker on my team if they're good? But, I don't know. I'm really not sold on Invoker being good even with these buffs. Some cold snap damage is great, considering you actually do get the cold snap cooldown. So this seems pretty significant. 8 more damage per tick. I mean, it's not gonna like change the game, but I guess it could if it secures a kill somehow. Juggernaut, base agility reduced by 2. Oof. Yes, I did just say oof. And base strength reduced by 1. Worst laning stage, basically the opposite of Drow, so maybe Drow now beats Jug in lane. Maybe that was the point of that change. Kidding, I'm kidding. Relax, I'm kidding. Keeper of the Light Will-O-Wisp radius increased from 700 to 725. I actually have seen some players picking up Coddle again. I feel like this hero isn't that bad and maybe didn't even need a buff and is just being underpicked. However, this is pretty nice. The radius being increased is obviously huge for such a large AoE spell as is. So, nice. I think Cuddle's pretty good. I would check out this hero. Luna, base damage increased by 2. They're really trying to make this hero better in lane, which is what it needs, without like over buffing it. And I understand because Luna is like a very good farmer, but the problem is it's really hard to get her to the point where it's actually effective, where she doesn't just get run over, because she dies very easily for the first like 15 minutes. It feels really bad. You have to get like a lot of items to make her not just insta-die. And comparing her to a hero like Sven, even though, you know, Sven does get nerfed in this patch, as you'll see, still, it's hard to work her in my opinion, with a lot of drafts. Feral Impulse damage for Lycan increased by 2%. Does that change the game? No. Does it help them? Of course. It's pretty good. 2% more for the wolves and the boys. Nice. And then Howl regen also up by 2. So the 2 patch for Lycan. I'm just going to say good. Don't think this makes Lycan a god, but makes him better at what he does. Mars base damage reduced by 2. Okay, I mean, understandable for sure. This hero is still very good. I mean, what it does is just insane, and its laning stage is still incredible. So I think it's going to need at least like 2 more patches before it gets kicked out of the meta, because this isn't enough. I mean, God's Rebuke being reduced as well is good, but it's not enough to kick Mars out of the meta, in my opinion. Morphling Waveform, basically they reduce its cast range, so it's harder to cast stuff now. For a while, they've been sort of incentivizing Waveform increase. As you can see in 7.22c, the mana cross was increased, however the cooldown was decreased, which didn't really actually like change much, but never mind, I take it all back. But cast range reduced basically on Waveform and Morph, actually a lot on Morph, from 1,000 to 700, 300 units less. That really does make a big difference. If you're chasing down or want to close the gap on an Ember and turn into him, you have to get much closer, which actually could potentially even get you killed, because you can cast Morph out of vision less. So I think this really hurts Morphling. As is, I've been seeing less and less Morphling. Do I think he's still viable? Of course. Morphling is just Morphling. It's a very odd hero that has a very cool niches. But this hurts him a lot. Let's go, Nature's Prophet buff. That's what I'm talking about, boys. I know all you guys were hyped for some Nature's Prophet buffs. I know I am. 3.3 intelligence gain to 3.5. Watch out. Your lane's about to get dumpsters. Kidding, I really don't. I mean, this is great, but like, it's not that good. Necrophos base intelligence increased by 1, so 1 damage. Nice. And Death Pulse radius increased. That's pretty good. This actually can matter quite a bit in the laning stage. Even, I mean, at every stage, I guess. So this is pretty good. This radius increase for Death Pulse just lets you track people down easier. Night Stalker base movement speed increased, which is great, because a lot of the time how you'd have to play as Night Stalker is just bouncing either in and out of trees if you're solo laning off lane, or really bouncing in and off the wave because you can't trade that well, or being able to like trade 1v1 with a weak support and get on top of them. Getting on top of them was kind of the hard part in the daytime. So overall, I like this. I think you needed some movement speed. Omni Knight Purification cooldown. It really seems like you have the max Purification now. Maxing Heavenly Grace is obviously still really good because it scales down, but I don't know. I feel like Purification might be the better spell to max now. Don't quote me on that, but it feels bad to have this at a 17-second cooldown at level 1 now instead of 14. So I believe I also saw Mind Control play this and he maxed Purification. So as an offlaner, I think you can kind of argue going this now. And a slight talent nerf. Don't think this matters at all. Apparently OD got nerfed. I didn't even feel like OD was good. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, were people really picking OD? Or like, did I miss something? Man, I don't know what qualifier I missed. I usually watch the highlights of like everything, but I mean, OD, must you really? Astral Imprisonment cooldown by 2, which is actually huge. Like, for the laning stage, you're spamming the spell, so like, those 2 seconds can miss you a creep or not. And then 2 more seconds coming off a 10-second cooldown definitely matters. Like, for fighting, those 2 seconds are actually massive. I'm 100% sure of this. So this is a pretty big nerf, in my opinion, to OD. Maybe even bigger than Chen. Like, it sounds crazy, but I feel like this actually really hurts what OD likes to do in the early game, which is constantly cast this spell and kill people due to the fact that its uptime is so low, right? Because it keeps them in it for 4 seconds, so it's 6 instead of 8. And like, the lower the number gets, the more 2 seconds means. So hurts him a lot. And then some mana nerf, actually huge, goes from 325 to 450. I don't think you still run out of mana, but for all the OD players, maybe you could tell me if this actually means anything. Base damage increased by 1 for Phantom Assassin, so it's only 1 damage. I can't imagine 1 damage really means anything for PA. I feel like these type of buffs are like Ice Frog is saying like, hey, check out PA, guys. Look what he did last patch. I actually don't even know what he did last patch. I know like the crit is giga good later on, 10% coup de grace. But in general, I don't see this being too great. The health talent's, you know, okay, but you also just want to take 15 damage so you can farm and get to your BKB, because that's really what matters. So, not sold. Maybe we'll see some Vanguard PA, who knows. Ah, what does this change? Why buff Meat Hook mana and cost at level 1? Like, just let this hero be trash in terms of Meat Hook. I'm totally cool with like this whole Flesh Heap Rot shenanigans for Pudge, but now all I see this as is like, I mean, sure, it's great for the Rot Flesh Heap Pudges because they wanted a value point in Meat Hook anyway. You know, that's wonderful. But at the same time, now roaming Pudges are going to be like, oh, I can cast 1 more hook or something like that. 1 more hook. So I'm going to take hook at level 1, even though it's absolute donkey. Ricky, Blink Strike cast increase, which is 100 at every level. That's really good. 100 at every single level is actually massive. The talent did get nerfed, however, so I guess this is kind of the trade-off, but I think he would take this. I mean, he would obviously take this trade-off any day. Not have to wait till level 20 to actually get 100, like to take the 100 cast range. So pretty nice Ricky buff overall. Actually, I think this is very big, believe it or not. 50 more damage for Skywrath, at least at level 1, and I think that's a bigger number. It doesn't like increase at level 3, but at level 1, considering you would sometimes even consider skipping this, more of a reason to take it at level 1. It used to be like 600, now it's 750, so it's gotten much better over time. Slark base damage reduced, noise, and Pounce Leash reduced, okay. I mean, I don't feel like, once again, this seems like the PA change where it's like slight talent nerf and 1, like does 1 actually mean much? Like, that's a low number. Spirit Breaker, Bulldoze mana cost increased, feels bad, man. I guess you're gonna like just run out of mana. But Nether Strike damage reduced from 120 to 100. It was 150 like 2 patches ago. Jeez. So much damage lost on this hero. Kind of sad, but you know, it's alright. I think he's still okay. Like, he still charges people. It's still good for your pubs. Try him out. Sven. I remember when this stun was 2 seconds, guys. You guys, anyone else remember? I remember. I really do. Now it's 1.25 seconds. However, it still scales up, which means that basically if you can get past the laning stage, like, Sven's still the same, which I feel like basically he's saying that he's still good. Like, you can still pick Sven. He still farms fast and has a stun in the lane. Even though it's a low stun, it's still a stun, and lets you get like 2 more right clicks in per hero, which is a big deal. Terrorblade, level 10. I mean, this is whack. I think it means like talent, but it's not phrased correctly, I think, because it doesn't say talent. Ice Frog, are you kidding me? This is where people are like, game is unplayable. I can't even read this. Like, I actually don't know what it means. I'm done. But slight talent buff, don't think it matters. You didn't want to take the evasion anyway, most games. And then the Scepter Fear. I actually have literally never seen the Scepter. I don't even know what it looks like. I don't even think this is worth, like, maybe it's good late game because of the consumable. It's like, whoa, it's 0.75 longer, which is actually very good. 0.75 is a lot for a Fear. But, I don't know. I've literally not seen it up to this point, which is, you know, a combination of Terrorblade not being popular, but also, like, this Axe being not something you could buy early on Terrorblade. Tinker. Talent increases at every level. 25 more cast range, which is very good. Some Spell Amp at level 10 as well. So, you know, 10% Spell Amp is quite big. And then 11% mana cost mana loss reduction at level 15. That's insane, actually. That's insane. 11% mana cost mana loss reduction? That's like massive compared to Spell Lifesteal. I mean, for a hero that obviously relies entirely on mana to do things, that seems huge. So far, I'm going with Tinker as the biggest buff of the patch. This seems like very good. Like, very, very good. Tusk base armor increase. I mean, for a hero that wants to trade, very cool. Underlord, Pit of Malice, 2 seconds lower at every level. And Dark Rift, a little bit better, but still probably not that good of a hero. Magic Missile, less mana. Ice Frog really wants people like pick Venge as support. He's been nerfing this, or making this spell better. You can see, like, 7.2 CC, it also got better. But, like, I don't think so. You still kind of have mana issues, even with this being better. Overall, Venge has gotten in buffs and this buff and the other buff, but she still has like really low attack range and trades kind of meh until she gets more points in like Wave of Terror and such. So I feel like Venge can be pretty good. I feel like the utility Venge has makes a lot of sense. Like armor reduction to stun and swap makes like it just sounds really good, but in practice this hero just feels weird. Really low cast range on everything makes everything just feel odd. That's how I see Venge. Viper, once again, Ice Frog pushing Viper towards being a right clicker, which is cool because I think something like Tread's Wand into Dragonlance Maelstrom is actually decent on Viper. Maybe even like Midas if you're a real psycho. But they buffed Poison Attack, they buffed the other right click talents, now they're buffing this talent, which is late game, but this is how I see Viper. Probably something I'll put in another video, talk a bit more about. Weaver base armor increase, very good for a hero that kind of had trouble trading in the early levels. So I like this, makes a lot of sense for Weaver and kind of what he needs. And then some Wraith King nerfs, you know, he still needed it because the Wraithfire Blast was still 100 damage base, which was a ton actually. So now it's 70, scaling up obviously, and the mana cost was increased for the Mortal Strike, meaning it's a lot worse at level 1, which I think is quite big considering, because it's not really that bad at later levels, but earlier levels it hurts him a bit considering, you know, you don't have a good mana pool as is and you want to be casting your mana. So, much worse landing stage for Wraith King. And finally, I feel like Zeus gets buffed like every single patch, but it's like by 1 or something. Very unnoticeable, or like Zeus base damage increased by 2. But base intelligence increased by 1. Does this make Zeus the best hero of the patch? I think so. If you agree with me and you really think Zeus is absolutely broken, I mean, let me know, because I really do. Jeez. I hope Zeus gets first phase banned every single game. TI. This hero is scary. Peace. Are you tired of being hard stuck at your rank? Over at GameLeap.com, we have a library of hundreds of guides authored by pro players and coaches covering literally every aspect of Dota. Whether you're looking to master a new hero or role, or just polish up your existing skills, GameLeap is the proven place for competitive gamers to hone their craft and unlock their secret potential. Hit the link on screen right now to take advantage of our special offer for a 25% discount, guys. 25%, and start your journey today.